I, Denise Park, do hereby give notice that a meeting of the Blackburn with Darwen Borough Council Policy Council will be held at Blackburn Town Hall on Thursday the 2nd of December 2021 at 6 p.m. The first item is to welcome you and receive any apologies, and welcome back or welcome to the Town Hall and the Council Chamber. Just a reminder, we are operating in line with COVID safe guidance, so there are masks available if you need one, there are wipes, there are hand sanitisers all available, and the room is being ventilated, and we would ask, if you can, that you please wear face coverings unless you are speaking. As part of the Town Hall refurbishment, this room has had some refurbishment. There's a new carpet and there is a new audio-visual system in place. For those of you that know it, it's very similar to the system that for sound and microphones that we had before. So there is a push-to-talk button on your desk. Press the button when you're invited to speak by the Mayor. The light will go red, as mine has, and press again to turn off the microphone when you've finished. The other buttons you can ignore for now. We'll be testing, training and rolling out the voting in the new year, so we won't be using the voting buttons this evening. Just as a reminder, this meeting is being live streamed on the internet. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If it sounds, please follow the members of staff who are here to the rear stairs, exit by the back door, and we gather in front of the Town Hall. So, thank you. Okay. Thank you. The next item is to receive prayers from the Mayor's Chaplain.
So let us pray. We pray this evening for the people of Blackburn with Darwen, for all those we serve or represent, especially for those who are most vulnerable. We pray for those who continue to be affected by COVID, and for all who work in public health. We pray tonight for wisdom and compassion in decision-making, for a spirit of hope and a sense of celebration for all that is good in our borough. And we pray for God's blessing upon this meeting. Amen.
Please be seated.
The next item of business is to receive and confirm the minutes of the Council Forum meeting from the 7th of October 2021.
Move those minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Second them.
Please. I just have a clarification, please, on the minutes to do with the concerns we raised about the planning. It's just, I want a clarification more than anything else. We had an application red flagged and we also had objections, and you told us during the meeting, Councillor Riley and Dave Smith, that if this happened it would automatically come to the planning committee. Can we ask for the reasons why that's not occurred, and so therefore why the minutes are wrong? Thank you.
But you'll have to. What are we talking about, Mr. Mayor?
That should never have happened, and it has. So just want a clarification of why it happened, so the minutes can be amended, so that councillors understand how it's actually really working, not how you say it's working.
Okay. Well, let me. Sorry.
Councillor Riley advised that the rules and procedures will be followed, that and bring it to the committee, whilst we're lowering the thresholds, requiring objective means to
So these are the minutes on, as I understand it, on page 4, minute 32, which is referring to a debate from the last meeting on the governance report and comments that were made about planning. So it's just before the resolution of minute 32.
Okay, sorry for that, Chair. Yeah, so that was a reference to the long saga that we had. And, I mean, all that we said was that when there are issues that are of significance, then they will be brought to the meeting. I think that, if I remember rightly, the context was that there was nothing at all being done by, if you want, us, or the planners, that effectively prevented items coming to the meeting. I mean, I think this is, if I'm right, Councillor Slater, this is a repeat of the conversation that we had on a number of occasions, including at the last but one meeting, in which I think Councillor Marrow was making some suggestions that things were being prevented from coming, and as I think Councillor Smith has just indicated he wants to explain, that as the chair of the committee, he brings things that will be brought. So I'm not certain quite what the concern is.
The concern is just that if the council red flags something, yeah, I was told from the cross-party planning in our room that it would with objections and a red flag, it would come to the committee. I won't go into specific planning because we're not allowed to do that, but just as that happened to me, Jean and Julie on our board, and it's not come to the committee. So I was just asking for a clarification.
Right, okay. So I think, Councillor Smith, are you going to clarify?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. I haven't been contacted by any ward councillors about any application in your ward that you wanted to come into committee. So if you'd have contacted me, we could have gone through it. I'd more than happily brought it to committee. The last time a Conservative, just trying to think, asked me to bring something to committee was your Councillor John Slater on Dover Street, and that's right, wasn't it? And it got brought to committee, not a problem. So if you want to give me a ring and we can chat about it, then not a problem.
It's just for, well, not just mine, not just for me, it's all the council, it's for the red flag thing, that was all. But it was the officers that I red flagged it to, that was all.
Councillor Slater, can we say that the minutes are correct, but whatever's gone out of that sync should be then taken back outside the meeting. Councillor Marrow and Councillor Smith can look at and respond accordingly. Doesn't make the minute wrong. Basically, what you're saying is what was in the minutes hasn't happened. Therefore, it needs obviously clarifying the exec member and the chair of planning to look into with your concerns, bring them to them, and obviously they'll respond in the correct manner as expected. Are we going to second for those minutes? No. Oh, sorry. All in favour?
The next item is to ask any members if they wish to make any declarations of interest regarding items on the agenda. Any declarations can be made and submitted to Phil Llewellyn here. Thank you. Mr Mayor, the next item is the presentation of the Civic Service Award to former Councillor Colin Rigby OBE, who has joined us this evening.
Councillor Slater.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Before the presentation, I'd just like to say just a few words about Colin, if that's okay. Thank you. Obviously, I've known Colin a very, very long time. He's been a councillor on here for 31 years. He's held many positions. He's been leader of the council. I think that everybody
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's right time to say to Colin his distinguished services for this borough for 30-odd years. And I think he was elected 1991, 3 decades ago, and he was the first Conservative leader of this council, and also he was responsible for the resources portfolio. And also, Colin was mayor of this borough 17-18, and Colin's style of political leadership is very much different from what I've seen here in this council chamber almost 30-odd years. Very polite, very much on point. I never seen him losing temper, even in the power or in opposition. And I think he's always played a very active role, best for this borough and also his ward. And I think I have great respect for him. We have different political policies or thinkings, but we always get along very well on every part of the life, even this council chamber and outside. So I think he deserved this honor, long service, 30-odd years, and I wish him all the best and very prosperous and a healthy life for many years to come. Thank you, Colin. Thank you once again. Mr. Mayor. There was one other councillor who was elected in 1979. I think he done a fantastic job in this council. I mean, Andy Kay. We did send him an invitation to come and pick up this award because of his principle. He said, I don't believe in these things. So I think he was saying to me, I really enjoy 40-odd years working with this council, with the officer, with the members. But I think he was one of the best person to run the resources portfolio. And also I think he was part of regeneration. He was getting blamed for everything. If there was a light broken or probably road hell or something like this, and I say, bloody Andy Kay. So I think, Mr. Mayor, I think that was his choice. And I think I fully respect his principle. I personally spoken to him when I was told that he says, thank you. But I think my sincere thanks to Andy. I think he's done a wonderful job in this council chamber for many number of years. The outside the council chamber, his interest was always people of this borough, nothing else. And I think I've seen him coming in this council 7 in the morning and going home probably 9 o'clock. He was so dedicated. But I can say, thank you, Andy. Your work with this council was understanding, and I can understand your principle why you are not here tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. I can only echo what you said about Councillor Kay. I know over many years he was a dedicated servant to the borough, and I just truly respect his decision not to accept the award. But thank you for those kind of comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo the leader's words that not just former councillor Andy Kay, but former deputy leader, former executive member for finance and resources, and for me personally, former ward colleague and still a good friend and mentor to me. And I'm not going to lie, had some stern words with Andy about not wanting to take the award, but I understand his principles. But he did ask me to mention tonight some words to all of the council, and he asked me to say that he was really proud to have served all the residents of the borough over the years. He will always look on the years, with his comrades in particular, with affection, and he doesn't believe that the council needs to recognise that service in any other way than every member of this council to continue the good work it has always tried to do. And he wants to wish everybody, especially again his comrades, the very best for the wishes for the future. And he's not gone away. He's still playing Santa at the Highcroft Children's Christmas party this year, still very much in the community, doing all the community work. So just on behalf of former Councillor Kay, just like to pass on those words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the next item of business, it's usual for Policy Council to be held in committee in line with the Constitution, page 106, 3.23, if I can read that. So, Mr. Mayor, if you'd like to invite one of your fellow councillors to move that we move into committee for this next item.
Would you like to propose that we move into committee?
It's moved. Seconded.
We seconded. Thank you. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. Can I just remind council it's the season of goodwill, and can we act with some decorum tonight of civility to each other in the run up to Christmas?
Thank you. The next item of business is to receive a report and a presentation from the leader, and I'll be contributing to the presentation as well, which is about delivering through the COVID-19 pandemic and looking towards the future, and covers the Council's corporate plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, Chief Executive, Chief Officers, elected members, and those who are watching at home, good evening to you all. Policy Council is one of the local authority key meeting every year, and is custom myself and Chief Executive will shortly take you through presentation around my leader report, and we have also produced a film this year to support our report. Before we proceed with playing the video, Mr. Mayor, I want to once again place on my record thanks to everyone in this borough for their response to difficult time we have collectively faced over the last 20 months. I want to recognize the work and commitment of our officers, our whole staff. Without doubt, one of our stronger assets is our workforce. Everyone from Chief Executive down to street sweeper has worked hard to get us to this point. They have risen to many challenges, and we will shortly see in the video and from presentation. The Council has still performed strongly against the corporate plan, our KPI, and I'm proud what we have delivered, and I'm proud we have risen to the challenge presented by COVID-19. But also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to thank all the National Services staff, doctors, nurses, health care workers, our social workers, and I want to thank those working with the most vulnerable people in our community, everyone delivering essential services, such as shop workers, distribution staff, our market start holder, postal worker, police, fire services, trade unions, everyone who has volunteered to help our community, and as well as all the members in this council. I also want to thank our partners, our residents, our businesses. We have suffered a terrible time, but this borough is resilient. We have always risen to challenge, and even under the most awful circumstances, everyone has contributed to the fight against the terrible disease. Of course, development over the last few days with the new variants are worrying, but I'm still confident there are brighter days ahead. Let me urge everyone to continue doing the most important thing in the battle against the COVID. Get vaccinated if you have not been already, and get your booster job when you are invited. I already got my booster about 6 weeks ago. There's no problem. So my request to everyone is, please, in your neighborhood, your relative, try to convince them this is the only way out to get to normal life if we all get the vaccination. And I think government is pushing it, and I think a number of people are probably opposing it. I know that there are some posters going around, don't get vaccination, don't use the mask. And I think anybody can take their advice from our public health director and many other professionals who will tell you this is the only way you can protect yourself if you are vaccinated. And if you are using your mask in crowded places, wash your hand, use the sanitizer, I think we can get back to normal life. Mr. Mayor, the video has contribution from myself, our Chief Executive, and two of my deputy leaders. Finally, before I play the video, I should highlight it was filmed and produced before the late mask mandate came into the force. So I asked Chris, could you please play the video? Things have been tough for everyone in our borough over the past 20 months with COVID-19. But we have all done our bit. We are still dealing with the threat the virus poses.
Well, the working voucher scheme's been absolutely brilliant. It's been an absolute godsend for us, for people using them, the patrons that use them. It's I can't thank the council enough for it. It's pulled us through a sticky time. It's been beneficial for all included in it.
The council support was invaluable because the link that we had then with the registrars, the cemetery, the advice, the questions that we asked and the answers that we got were always they always listened to what we had to say and what we were asking them to do, and it worked as a partnership perfectly.
We are still vigilant, but thanks to the vaccine and our residents, we're in a better place than we were last year.
There are so many positive things happening in the borough.
As well as those fantastic initiatives, we will also be working on some big agenda items and key council priorities.
What should the council prioritize as we look to the future?
I think the priorities for the borough should be transport, access to services and strengthening youth voice.
I think the council should prioritise some classes or groups for people who are on waiting lists with special educational needs.
I feel the council should bring back and prioritise the parents coming in to the nursery setting and being engaged with playing with the children and doing different activities with the parents.
Yeah, I'd like the council to consider better transport links, especially for students coming into town in the morning. Quite often a lot of buses are overcrowded, and also looking at possibly new shops and new businesses into the area.
After the pandemic, I think we should be focusing on getting people back into work, job creation schemes, greater cohesion simply in Blackburn, and sort of rebooting the economy.
I'd like the council to prioritise the voucher scheme for children. Since their universal credits have ceased their extra money, a lot of families are struggling, and it would help some businesses in the area as well.
Well, I think we need a lot more going on in the town centre because it's got really, really quiet. It's not all down to the council's fault. COVID's ravaged it a lot as well.
Improve property.
Special people get what they deserve. Mr. Mayor, I think this is the poignant snapshot of last 20 months. Life has been hard, but we should remember there's a lot of great things going on in this borough. But of course, we will never rest on the laurel, which is why we want to talk to the residents, our businesses, and our partners. As you can see, the process has already started, and it has to be frank conversation, and we want to hear view of what and all. Next slide, Chris. Mr. Mayor, before I hand over to Chief Executive to go through some of the detail of the report, including how we have performed, I wanted to touch some of the national policy drivers which shape the future direction of this council. We are waiting desperately for the white paper on levelling up. I believe it is likely before the end of the year. While we have been successful in a bid for individual pot of money, most notably the Darwen Town deal, I do not believe that government has spelled out exactly what is levelling up, what is mean, and flesh out this concept of levelling up. Hopefully this will come out in the white paper in the next couple of weeks. But same time, Mr. Mayor, levelling up is not going to be done from the Whitehall. Real power, resources, flexibility had to develop to the local level and local area. We know our community, we know our area, we know our problem, and we know what needs to be done to level up. I think I was very concerned when we are talking leveling up, and I've spoken to John, when they have taken the universal credit uplift from the people. I think I was at a meeting day before yesterday, one of the health people who were looking at the Health Equity Commission, and one of the members said, it's not really leveling up for the northern part of the country, and especially the northwest, when you are taking $6 billion pay money away from the people, and you go on the only $2 billion. So, Mr. Mayor, while paper is not out yet, but I think government make the decision about the county deal. There is some confusion in some councillors, maybe in county level or probably district level, that this is a county deal. This is not a county deal. This is geographical area of the county, the whole Lancashire. And I think all the leaders, 15 of them working together for the last couple of months, and they are going to work almost very hard to make sure they are going to set the giant priority for the people of Lancashire to improve their quality of life. And I think that will take time, but I think we are moving in the right direction. We, Blackburn Borough Council, fully committed in principle to make sure we got the devolution from central government and to do the thing we need to be done in this part of the world. So I think, Mr. Mayor, I will bring the report back in the near future in the council meeting, the way things are moving and where we are going to get on the county deal. I think in October, Chancellor made the item statement and universal unveiled the comprehensive spending review. While on the face of it, it was better than expected for the local authorities. But we wait for final settlement probably sometime in this month. I'm very pleased to see the government has published the white paper for adult social care only yesterday. I think we have to read and digest it very much in detail, very big document. But my concern is at this stage, Mr. Mayor, I think social care all over the country, they are £8 billion shortfall. And I think the way things are moving with the pressure, demand, this winter is going to be very, very difficult for the people who need the care. So that's what we are requesting the government, please, before the white paper, which is 10-year vision. I don't know when it's going to be started, but at this stage, local authority, and especially top-tier authority, they need money to serve the social care for most vulnerable people in our community. Finally, Mr. Mayor, I want to say a few words about the climate change. COP26 brought 100+ leaders from all over the world to accelerate action on climate change. Tackling the climate change and reducing the greenhouse gases emission is one of the biggest challenges facing our society. As a council, delivering on our climate responsibility and providing leadership to tackle the climate emergency will be a key focus of this council. Every area of the council will be involved. We need to show the leadership on this agenda, and we will need every resident, businesses, partners to work with us if we are going to meet our climate change obligation. Mr. Mayor, now I hand over to Chief Executive, who will take us through the activities and performance of current corporate plan. Over to you, Denise.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. The performance and KPIs are set out in the report and the appendices. Despite the challenges that we have all faced, overall, we've performed well against the corporate plan and are hitting the majority of the targets that were set. There are 2 reds being reported, and they are detailed in the exception report. One of those is in relation to carbon emissions, and it's perhaps worth saying that there are still some bills and some data outstanding, and things like complying with ventilation requirements to mitigate against COVID are also impacting on our targets to reduce emissions. But we do now have funding through the public sector decarbonisation scheme, which is due to be implemented, and we expect will reduce emissions by about 250 tonnes. But the full impact won't be felt until 2022-23. So an update on our Climate Emergency Action Plan is due at next week's Executive Board as well. There are also some indicators for which we don't currently have data available. Next slide, please, Chris. Thank you. So just touching briefly on each of the main themes, our services to people. During the first half of this academic year, attendance at schools and settings in the borough has remained above the national average and consistently one of the highest in the region, and a great credit to our schools in managing that in very difficult times. The holiday and food programme, which aimed to offer valuable support to families on lower incomes through access to rewarding activities alongside healthy meals, has been in place and will be delivering services again during the Christmas holidays. The new social and extra care housing development at Albion Mill is now complete. The first residents are starting to move in, and each aspect of service delivery that will be available there will be rolled out over the coming weeks, and it complements some of the other schemes we've had in the borough. Support is being offered to residents who are experiencing long COVID through the formation of a support group. An investment in the gyms at Blackburn Sports and Leisure Centre and Whitton Park Arena is due early in the new year to reinvigorate these fitness facilities and encourage healthy and active lifestyles. Moving on to place. It was really exciting this year to see the return of many of the borough's popular culture and music festivals, which we've been waiting for. These included things like the British Textile Biennial, with events and exhibitions held across the borough in October. Whitton Park has hosted a range of large open-air events, including Restricted Rocks, to name but one, in the summer. And we also celebrated 100 years of King George's Hall in October as well. In addition to events, in terms of place, we'll be working on things like the local bus service improvement plan over the coming year to remain flexible to changes in demand and meet people's requirements. In terms of economy, the third theme. In the summer, working with the Darwen Town Deal Board, the Council has secured the maximum government allocation of £25 million in support of an ambitious £110 million investment plan for Darwen. There is still much work to do before we see this investment delivering on the ground, but certainly exciting prospects ahead. The new 8-screen reel cinema opened in the spring of 2021. It's a fantastic addition to the borough and is at the heart of Blackburn Town Centre's Northgate regeneration scheme. A new link road, Issa Way, from Blackamoor Road to Roman Road, has recently opened. Over £70 million of support through nearly 15,000 grants was given to local businesses, administering government funding, securing and protecting thousands of jobs, helping businesses across all sectors and all sizes, and supporting the economy to start to recover. Building work started at a new housing development at the former Sappy Paper Mill site on Livesey Branch Road in Blackburn. And in 2022, as has already been referenced, we'll be looking to position Blackburn with Darwen to take advantage of new national growth funds as we understand what the government's intentions are in levelling up and the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. The fourth priority, the Council itself. We established a core COVID team in the summer of 2021 to allow departments to start to return to more business as usual. And those staff who had been deployed into different roles to support our COVID response began to return to their more usual work and roles that they do for us. We've implemented a new HR and payroll system as part of our efficiencies and modernisation. We were delighted to receive the Gold Award in first place in the Digital and Technology category at this year's National Public Sector Transformation Awards. Our new digital customer platform has been used heavily throughout the pandemic to enable residents and businesses to access support and services quickly and easily online 24/7. In 2022, we'll continue to roll out our digital strategy, continuing the modernisation of systems, delivering efficiencies and increasing digitisation and service improvements for residents. That's a summary of our performance. I'll just turn now briefly on the next slide to the Blackburn City bid. And to make you aware, whilst we announced a month ago that we intended, as a council on behalf of Blackburn, to enter the Queen's Platinum Jubilee competition for the civic honour of city status. This is relatively simple and should be low cost to enter. It's the equivalent of honours, but a civic honour for the town, and there is a clear set of criteria where we'll have to be able to demonstrate the distinct identity of the place, the civic pride in place that there is, the culture, heritage, history and tradition of the town. Demonstrate a vibrant and welcoming community with a record of innovation, that there's good governance and administration across all agencies, demonstrate royal associations that there may be, and any other distinctive features and significant community contributions that make the place stand out. We have to submit a detailed profile of the area, including demographics and economic activity data. And we can submit up to 50 photographs of permanent features alongside a detailed map, which is to be included. The entry, which is being brought together now, has some strong themes in terms of the proud history of the place, the unique community spirit, being brave and bold, determination of diverse peoples working in partnership, and innovation, especially amongst our many business entrepreneurs. The response to date has been overwhelmingly positive, and there's been a growing campaign around the competition under the slogan, "Blackburn, a city of our making." People from all walks of life with links to Blackburn are keen to speak up about the town and say they are backing Blackburn. Everyone from celebrities who were born in Blackburn to businesses who have chosen Blackburn and the wider borough as their base because of what it can offer. We are capturing all those who are giving statements of support on a special digital wall, and many of the points they are making will also be included in the entry. The activity taking place, including the photography competition, for which we've had nearly 600 entries, has put the spotlight on Blackburn with a great deal of media coverage locally and nationally, and we hope that positivity has made people feel good and that those photographs will be available for all to see and use in the future. So that outlines the process we've gone through. I will now hand back over to the leader to talk about the response and the benefits of this submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased with the response to the city bid, which is council facilitating on behalf of this town. The process so far has been very positive, and it is so great and so pleasing that many different people from all parts of life, different political affiliation, they are fully behind it. Even member of Conservative group from River Valley, from Pendle, from Hindburn, from Darwen, Rosendale, and Kate Holland from Blackburn, and many more member of Parliament from Lancashire, and including Lancashire County Council. They said to me, we are very pleased about it, and we'll do everything possible to make sure Blackburn will win. Lancaster County Council is a city, then Preston is city, and I think this part of the word is only missing, which is Penn and Lancashire. And I think we need the support of every one of you. Get behind it for the future of this borough. This is a town bid. I think some people are saying, why not borough? Under the criteria we cannot do for borough, it has to be a town. And I think many number of civics and religious leaders, they're given this support. Number of people who have focus group, I think Kasser attended one of them in the community. Number of high gentry people, they are behind it. It has created a great buzz. Next. Grace. The benefit of city stations include international exposure, attracting new and growing businesses, benefiting both businesses and employees' confidence, highlighting the area as a tourist destination, as well as upping up our role in the national stage and giving us a strong voice regionally and nationally. A successful bid will complement all the work that is being done through the Darwen Town Fund. Next slide, please. Mr. Mayor, finally, I would like to say a few words about our plan for refreshing our corporate plan, and especially the engagement we want to do and help shape it. Over the next 6 months, we'll undertake the big program of listening to residents, businesses, our partners, and we will be engaging our staff and elected members. As I said in the video, the feedback will ensure our refreshed corporate plan will reflect the priority of our residents, our businesses, and our partners. And of course, we cannot deliver our borough without our partners. Thankfully, partnership working has always been strengthened in this council, whether it is fantastic work of Blackburn with Darwen Food Resilience Alliance, or a close working relation we have for National Health Services. Our partnership continually delivers. I passionately believe through collective endeavor, we achieve more together than we achieve alone. Blackburn with Darwen live and breathe that, and I move that report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, it has been a very hard year for all our residents. It's been unprecedented. It's been tough. But we are, thanks to the government's brilliant vaccination programme, coming out of the other side, and I echo what Councillor Corn said. I would urge everybody to please get the vaccination if they haven't had it, and if they have, get the booster as soon as they can. Vaccination is the way out of this, and if we can get as many people vaccinated as possible and as soon as possible, the variants that may come our way and the bumps in the road will not be as bad or disruptive as they could be. And secondly, I'd like to thank, on behalf of my group, all the staff of the council for the extreme hard work they've done through this pandemic. It's been tough for them as well. They've had to deal with quite a lot of stuff they'd never dealt with before. And they've carried on the services as best they can, and we thank them for that. And we just say, please carry on, and you have our thanks for that, and I'm sure the certain executive members will pass that on to their relative leadership teams. Very nice slides, very good presentation, very polished. Does it actually represent the real borough, the real problems that we have? Not one mention of them. I was at the exec board last exec board, and Councillor Talbot presented a programme of dental health. We have the worst dental health for juniors, not in the northwest, in the country. Is anything on that policy, that anything there for dealing with that? We have the worst roads in the borough. The borough has the worst roads in the northwest. That's not me saying that. That's the people saying it who've done the statistics and done the data. Any mention of that? No. Any mention of the pressures at the hospitals and how we're going to deal with that? No. All we've got is some nice glossy pictures of how well we're doing. We have a mortality rate so that men and women in this borough are likely to live 10 years less than those down south. Anything in there about that? No. It's very nice to have these policy councils to say what we're achieving and what we're doing. But the policy council is here to set policies to help the people of this borough, to make their lives better. Have we seen anything there that does that? No, we haven't. All we've seen is the same hash of what we saw last year and the year before. And does that make me feel angry or sad? A bit of both, really. I'm not disputing that we've had problems, the borough's had problems, and I'm not disputing that there have been some really, really positive things that have come out of it. But we have some real underlying problems in this borough. And we all know they have. Just look at me like you can, when you come back, you can attack me or you can agree with me, whatever. And for us, as an opposition, for us representing people in this borough, elected to do so, we find it sometimes a bit bizarre that you brush over these things as if they don't there. And we talk about climate change and we talk about policies for carbon. We're talking about carbon emissions here going up. We've had a lockdown. Nobody's been using the cars, but we've got the highest one. And before anyone says to me, why don't you come up with something, I'll give you a policy now that we can all agree on here and put it in here. That every new house that is built in this borough has to have solar panels on. That we have built an immense amount of housing in this borough. Has that policy ever been put forward? Has that ever been recognised? And yes, it can be done. It's done in other councils. Was it done here? No. Why? I don't know. Oversight? Maybe. Lack of thinking? Maybe. Or maybe now it's a chance for us to say, yes, OK, Councillor Slater, I'll bring that to the next exec board or the one after that, and we will change our housing policy so that every new house in this borough has to have solar panels. It's a simple thing. Yes, it makes the house a bit more expensive, but over the 25 years or 30 years of that mortgage, it will more than pay for itself. These are positive things that we should be doing. There are plenty more, but I'm not going to go into them now. But for me and for our group, it's the same again. Yeah? And I'm not going to stand here and criticise the staff, because I still think that they are doing a really good job. Leadership teams, corporate thinking, strategic thinking. Do I think we do enough? No, we don't. I'm happy to help and work with the opposition. I am, if certain things can do that, and I know Councillor McGurk and I are working on something which she'll bring to the exec board next time, and I'm happy to do that. But really, for a policy council, it's just no grit there. There's nothing there to help the people of this borough. All we're doing is a corporate plan. All we're doing is looking at the strategic. Are we succeeding? Are we meeting the targets, the KPIs? Well, anyone can meet the data because you set the data yourselves. But are you setting the right data? Are you setting yourselves the right priorities? Just on those two things of the roads and the tooth decay, obviously we're not. Yes, I know the life expectancy is a lot more complicated than I've just made out. It's not as good as that. There are lots of things to take into account, deprivation, everything else. Are we doing enough to tackle that as a borough? Are we doing enough to tackle that? I don't think we are. Is the government doing enough? It's my government, and I don't think they are as well. And I'm happy to criticise them when they do. The family tax credit was one of them. If I feel that they are letting down the people of this borough, my MP and myself will stand up and do that. And so will everyone else on this side. When the government's doing things right, like the vaccination programme, we will shout it from the rafters. When they secure a massive town deal for Darwen, which is going to massively improve the people of Darwen, which was thanks to the MP, and the council officers did a good job, but MP was driving this, and we champion that and we shout that from the rooftops. But I would ask everyone just to consider that, just that one thing of the solar panels. And I would ask that next time that we do a policy council, we don't just look at what we do right, what we are not doing right, what we are failing on, what are letting down the people of this borough, and the action plans to make those lives in this borough, which we're all here for, make better. And no one's saying it's easy. No one's saying that it's going to take a pick of a wand and it will be right. It won't. It takes strategic thinking and hard work. Do we think that strategic thinking is there? We think sometimes it is lacking. We're not saying it's not there all the time, because there are some good things. Councillor Blakeson has done some marvellous things on children's. We're not saying that they haven't done that. What we're saying is, look at the things that aren't right. And at a policy council, admit to the residents that they're not right. But then tell the residents to plan to get us there. Not some just nice glossy leaflets or some nice glossy thing. And that is the crux of a policy council for me. Now, I'm sure we'll all come back and you can have your say at me, and that's fine, it's politics. This is our opinion from my group. I will finish on one positive note, the city bid for Blackburn. We fully support it. We hope that it's a success. With the city bid will come extra funding, prestige, if we were lucky enough to get that, and I hope that Blackburn is successful in that bid, and we will do all we can to help them in that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just hearing what Councillor Slater said there. Really, I didn't really intend to sort of be political at this meeting, but I think, given Councillor Slater's comments about the problems facing the borough at the moment, I think it is really important that we remember where we were at the start of this pandemic. We'd had effectively 10 years of austerity policies and a budget at this council that has been effectively halved. Tribute's been paid to the staff and all the partners and all the residents for all the work over the last year and a half, almost 2 years through the pandemic, and that's absolutely right, and we all agree with that. And for me, where we are as a borough at the moment actually is in spite of what we've had to endure over the last 11 years, and tribute to everyone's work and working together. So I think it's just really important that we remember that. Yes, the government has supported us financially during the pandemic, and we were worried a year ago that we weren't going to get the funds through from government, but tribute to the government, they did come through, but that's not a reinstatement of the budgets that have been lost over the years before, and we have lost, what's it, in the region of £100 million from our budget, and that's going to have an effect. And for me, it's almost a miracle, really, that we're performing in the way that we are against such a backdrop. Massive challenges. Some of these go back generations. Councillor Slater mentions oral health. Yes, we put a big strategy through at the October Executive Board, and I think we've got to look across the board at all the options for improving oral health. There are massive challenges, certainly, but we've got to look at what we can achieve positively, and I think we've achieved a lot positively, but there's a huge amount more to do. But if Councillor Slater can invite his government to perhaps reinstate the budget that they've taken away over the last 10 years, I think we'd all be grateful. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I suppose Damien may have just stolen my thunder a little bit on that, because just to, I suppose, to sum up on what Damien's just said, it'd be good if Councillor John Slater, you mentioned about deprivation, and that's a really key aspect. Deprivation used to be one of the indicators that the government funded. It's no longer funded on deprivation. That element of financing was taken away. So it means that boroughs like ours aren't given the right funding for the level of need that it has. So I'd very much like to take up John's offer to challenge the government and actually ask for reinstatement of the deprivation value when it comes to corporate spending. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I hadn't been wearing my mask, you would have seen my jaw drop at what I've just heard. There's about 3 elephants in this room that haven't been tackled. One, if you came to scrutiny committee meetings, perhaps you'd be able to influence decisions that were made by this council. Your fault. You're not representing the residents who voted for you. Second one, adult social care. That is a big problem to our people in this town, in Blackburn and with Darwen. You can pay up to £85,000 for your adult social care. That doesn't include any contribution from the borough, any of your hotel costs. So you could well be looking at £120,000. Now, the average assets in this town for a house is about £120,000, which means 100% of your assets that you wanted to pass on to your children will be gone. Compare that with Kensington and Chelsea in London, where the average house price is £1 million, and they will be spending 10% of their assets they want to pass on. How can that be fair? I ask you in all reasonableness, how can that be fair? Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Slater, I think, was sort of saying what have we done that improves people's lives. I mean, I would suggest that over the years, the house building programme that we've encouraged, I mean, we don't build them, but we've encouraged, I would suggest has made a significant improvement to a lot of people's lives. I don't need to remind everybody in here that just about every one of those housing developments which now enrich the town were opposed by yourselves from the very beginning. I don't need to remind people in here, or some people who weren't here, that the rebuilding of the centre of Darwen, which has essentially become part of the feature for the Darwen Town deal, was opposed massively by yourselves. The pulling down of the brutalist, ugly three-day market was led by, and I can remember meetings with Councillor Slater, getting him passionate, telling him he worked up his own schemes that was going to make this an unbelievably profitable thing. It was absolute nonsense. I imagine now that of the 3,000 people who signed the petition, my guess is that it'd be very, very hard to spot them. The nice thing about the town deal was that when they did the Vox Pop surveys, one of the things that came across was how proud people are now of that town centre, how much it's become a feature of the town, and that's good. But as I said, I mean, we wouldn't have done it if we'd listened to yourselves. Just as, in truth, if we'd listened to yourselves, we wouldn't have built any of those new houses that people are living in. So it is complicated to please you. Councillor Slater's made an observation about solar panels. We don't build these houses, and over the years, one of the things that we've been keen to do is to encourage and to develop a house building strategy in the town, or the towns. To some degree, well, to a significant degree, that's now happened. We're attracting developers who 5 years ago would have been very difficult to find in the town. We've got a planning application coming through the next planning thing from Ilan Houses in Milking Lane. They're a quality, a much developer from Cheshire who really wanted to come into the borough, and that's a tribute really to the fact that the housing market in Blackburn and Darwen has been resurrected and regenerated. So there are things. Clearly, I mean, the government have made a number of changes to new housing. All of them have to have EV points, and we have been talking to one of the developers, one of our new estates, about heat pumps. They add quite a significant value or cost to people's houses. But again, that's a judgment that they have to make. But next week at the Executive Board, we're going to bring a set of observations about climate change, about wide-ranging changes. I mean, one of the reasons why the climate change on here is red is because it's a comparison between this year, when some things have been happening, and last year when nothing was happening. So it is, I guess, a slight statistical blip to show it in that fashion. I think we've got, people will know, those of them in the planning department or planning committee know that thanks to the government's decarbonisation policies, which was very well attracted by some good work from members in the growth team, we've been able to start to implement schemes on virtually all public buildings, all of which will help with climate change. So more of that next week. But in the end, as I said, it is difficult to please you, really, and you, as I said, you oppose all the things, and then you oppose the consequences as well. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I take on board Councillor Riley's opposition to solar panels and looking at the future, and I think at the COP conference one of my idols said, is it just another blah, blah, blah? Because that's what I'm feeling in this chamber, is blah, blah, blah. You stand in this chamber and you insult 24 traders who had a life business within a building that you call diabolically ugly, or whatever reference you made to it. This council starved that market of funding for many, many years to fit a purpose, to move it forward, to demolish it, because 3 Labour councillors never represented anybody in Darwen and never represented those businesses to fight for their livelihoods. So do not stand up in here and dictate and call Darwen traders and Darwen market in a manner of such disrespect, because it really gets my goat, really gets it. Nice slides, nice definition, great pictures. Reality, let's put reality here. We're here to debate what's the best for the borough, what's the best for our communities. How do we represent our communities that work hard every day and expect the best from their council tax and their services? And Councillor John Slater was right. The officers have never let us down through the pandemic. Whenever we've got in touch with the officers, they've been there, they've tried to help, they've done some outstanding work, and so have many people in the community. What we're doing here today is challenging what you're bringing forward and saying, come on, let's go for the best, let's do it better, let's improve things. But we don't want blah, blah, blah. And what really, you know, your slides come along and you brag about this great amount of money that's been brought to the town centre partnership in Darwen. Yeah, there's a picture up there, but you can't bring yourself to say the MP, Jake Berry, of Darwen, helped bring that, helped the people of that town achieve that fund. You know, and it wasn't just partial funding, it was the maximum funding that he brought to that town. And we should be eternally grateful for that, because we can do things to help people. And we're not here to sit and listen to what, you know, the niceties. We want to get to the bones of things. We want to discuss, we want to debate, we want to bring it, and we want to bring it up to where we want people to live and where we want people to have better choices. So I am cross at what's been said in this chamber, and I hope that has been taken on board, because it's disappointing when you use people's livelihoods, people's towns, in a disrespectful way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure, I'm not defending Phil, but I think brutalism is a style of architecture. That's why I described it as brutalist. I would like to just talk a little bit about what we mean by levelling up, and I agree with you, Denise, about doing the best we can for the residents of our borough, and that's the least we can do with the last 21 months that our residents have been living with, and particularly our younger residents, our young people and children. So I suppose what I would do is echo the words of the Local Government Association when they did the review of the Chancellor's budget and the announcements, and they started unpacking and looking at the announcements that have been made. So this headline figure of family hubs, for example, that headline figure of family hubs being the future, and I am fully confident in our team in Children's Services in the proposal that we're putting forward. I'm pleased with the work that's going into that, and I'm fully confident that they're going to do as well as we can possibly do. And we've got some really good work to demonstrate our record on keeping, under Maureen Bateson's leadership, keeping children's centres, for example, despite the cuts to Sure Start and all of those things that the Coalition and then the Conservative governments did. So I was really pleased to hear about the family hubs idea, and then I was devastated to hear that of the family hubs that are on offer in this first round, of 150 upper tier local authorities that are entitled to apply for this funding, 12 will be chosen. 12. So it's not quite as exciting as it looks like, is it? Another thing I'm really concerned about, and I agree with the Local Government Association about, is that this piecemeal approach to funding streams that keeps councils in competition with each other, when all councils, whatever your political persuasion is, all councils want to do the best for their residents. Yet we're pitted against each other in a sense of competition all of the time. And another good example of the risk that that brings when we are piecemeal given these opportunities, these crumbs, if you like, is that we are then vulnerable to when the government decides that that's no longer required. So I'm talking now about the school improvement grant. The school improvement grant locally has been used really, really well. I'm really proud the way that Joe's team have worked with us, and led by Alison, has worked with the school improvement grants to support all of our schools, whatever their status is, whether it's a maintained school, whether it's an academy, all of our schools can benefit from that. From 2022, that's going to be cut by 50%. The following year, it's going altogether. So please, absolutely agree with you, Denise. We've got to do everything. We've got to fight and do everything we can for the residents of this borough, particularly for the younger residents and children, particularly for their futures. But please, let's get an end to this piecemeal approach. Councillor Talbot's already spoken about the devastating cuts that austerity have brought to this borough. Councillor McGurk has talked about the deprivation index the funding stream, the way that calculation has been changed. These are things that make it almost impossible to plan a sustained future. So when I see that, I actually am very, very proud of the work that's been going on for the last 11 years, despite all of those cuts to our budgets, despite all that vulnerability and that risk that comes from being promised funding, or new funding being announced, like the Youth Investment Fund. The Chancellor announced £560 million in his latest budget speech. 500 of that was promised 2 years ago, and we're still waiting for it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, John, for your kind contribution. I think if you read the report, it's quite clearly saying there are 3 actual red, 3%. There are 22 actual forecasts for yellow, improvement places in place. 2 red, fully information is given why they are red, and the rest of them are all green. So that is performance which is in the report. And I think we are all in this together, as far as I can see it, and I believe it, that we are elected by the people to improve the quality of life for the resident. Nobody is here as a councillor to work on £7,000 funding, or probably whatever you call it, for the work, or some responsibility, which you got special responsibility. Everybody came in this council to make sure they are going to make real difference. Not for allowances. I think Councillor Bateson and many other people who came here, there was not allowances. When I came here, there were only £2,000 a year. So we didn't come in this council to make the money. And I'm telling some of the people who are interested to become a councillor, I say, if you want to come in here and make money, please keep out of it. If you are interested to make a difference or probably care about the community, please come. We need you. John, with due respect, you know, last 10, 11 years, in real terms, we lost £140 million from this council budget. You know that, and everybody in this council know that, and all the chief officers are aware of it. What is our financial situation? When you take so much money away from your own home budget, if you are working husband and wife and you look at it, one of them you will make redundant, or your wage is taken up 50%, what you will do? You will cut the services. You probably cut what you are eating. And that's what we did here. We tried to avoid any cut to affect the people. Even all the community center, we worked with the community to give that community center the community, and those volunteers are still running it. We used to have 5 care centers, 6 care centers for most vulnerable people in this town. We have only 2 now. We have given a big extension to one of them, and I think that is covering all the services. And we've done the same thing with libraries in other places to make sure the public are not going to lose any services. And I think we've done our best. Even you were in power 2007. I don't know, I didn't see any difference. I think I was close working with Colin and Michael. Never thought about any difference. We are here to make really difference as a collective body. But unfortunately, sometimes we stand here, we play the politics. Why you are not doing this? Why you are not doing this? And I think when you look at the people who are coming from outside LDA, they were here last week looking at our communication department. They came here, a number of them, at the peer reviews to look at our services, CQV inspection, Ofsted inspection. We are the only authority in this region. As a children's services, we were best. Other Liverpool, Blackpool, or even your county council, they went for improvement. So there are a lot of good things happen in this council for the last 22 years since we become a unity authority. But it seemed to me, because we are in politics, we don't realize what is good. And now everything is not rosy, because last 20 months, it was so difficult. And I'm so pleased about the community as a whole in Blackburn and Darwen, the way they gel together, the way they pull together. Many number of volunteers, many number of staff in this borough council, our trade union, they never ask any of their workers stop leaving the job in leisure services and go and deliver something else. Go and help people get the injection. Go and have it test and trace. And I think that beauty here, because all this stuff, they never thought this is not my job. They said this is the time to go and give extra mile for the benefit of the people. And I think sometimes it really surprised me, because of the political affiliation or probably differences, we don't praise what is good work going on. I don't know what you've seen here, what is bad. What is bad for this council? And we know the life expectancy is gone down in the last 20 months, and now why? We know we have a deprivation in this town, not only in this town, whole of the Pen and Lancashire. We know that. In 2004, 2005, Labour government in power given us housing market renewal funding, the whole Pen and Lancashire. This council was getting £12 million a year to improve the pre-1919 houses. You've seen in Darwen how many houses were demolished, build the academy there. I know I was part of the housing. What was the situation in these houses? What was the situation in February area, in Outley area, in my area? We demolished many number of houses. We given the full improvement grant to the people, and they build the quality of life. This commission which is set up now, Health Equity Commission, they always talk about the poor housing, poor education, unemployment, drug, unemployment. So I think housing was the main issue, and I think when Margaret Thatcher was in power, I seen one of the ministers, I went there, I was part of the housing, and I said, please, unless you sort out the housing, the pressure on your health system is not going to go away. Give some money to the housing private sector. They cannot do it. The answer was, these are not the government houses. People bought it like you buy your car, you are prepared for yours for MOT and repair. And that's what's happened. They came in power in 2010, and they came in power in September, and September, after 1 week, they stopped complete housing market renewal on single penny. And I think middle area suffered for many number of years because those houses were declared, and we couldn't do anything about it. After that, John, 2010, we start losing the budget from right and left, and you are part of it. You've seen yourself. And I think anybody in that position losing so much money from the budget, then you are saying you are not delivering what you used to deliver. We'd love to deliver. And I think money need to be there if you want to deliver. So far, without £100 million or £140 million in real term, we've done a fantastic job. no doubt about it. Many number of right-minded people, even outside this town, when I go around in Manchester and all the leaders on the Northwest, they always say, I think your council is doing very well. What we are saying, what we are reading, you should be proud of yourself. And I think I'm not saying it's me, it's the whole people in this council, all the officers in this council. It's collected effort for the people to make really differences. And I think if somebody has a good idea, please come around, tell us, tell me. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think just trying to see that nothing has improved, it's not fair, John. And I think we need to make sure we are here for the benefit of the people, not try to make the political point. Mr. Mayor, as I move the report, and I think what this council has been doing for the last 11 years, and especially the last 20 months, I really salute every one of them who are working in this council, all the people in public sector and private sector, all our partners, our businesses who suffer very badly, and I think they are still here. They want to make a real difference, and I think that's why we are moving, refreshing our corporate plan to make sure we fully consult with the community, with the businesses, with our private sector, public sector, all the partners, and we will listen to them and come back here. And I think if you have any idea, please put forward how we can move forward after the COVID to make sure this borough is going to be a brilliant place to live, work, and come and visit. So, John, please. There's a lot of good things happening here. Under the circumstances, I think we need to accept it time and time. And that's one thing I said about Colin. I really admire him. In this council chamber, he never stood up and lose his temper and try to criticize it. Very passionate level. He was talking with the officers, talking with the members, and we were listening it. And I think this is the way forward in politics. Get in touch with others, sit together, come and see me. Unfortunately, I have a regular meeting with you for the last 6.5 years, but for the last 18 months, we were unable to meet. I invited you again a couple of weeks ago because of your work commitment. You cannot come. The door is open, man. Come on, sit down. Just talk about it. Let's talk in the executive board. These are the places we can talk about it and probably make a real difference. But I think just looking at this stage and performing at the stage for watchers, that's not the right way forward. Mr. Mayor, I move my report and I fully endorse, and I hope members will fully endorse it. And then I will have other point to speak, Mr. Mayor, if you allow me.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the meeting will now move out of committee.
Councillor Khan, did you want to?
This is something I personally want to share with you, Mr. Mayor, and my colleague. I don't know if that's the proper meeting.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the next item of business is to receive the draft year planner for 2022-23 ahead of submission of the final version to the January meeting of the Council Forum. Bring them in after. All right.
Any comments on that, the year planner?
Mr. Mayor, no, it's not a planner, it's something which the planner is not about that. Please consider it, and you can feed back if you think there is some date merging with your holiday, or not your holiday, but with your religious, with your religion, or probably anything else which you think need to be changed. We will change it, Mr. Mayor. So that's not. This is for just to make sure you got it in front of you and come back and give feedback to the officer, and they will probably change it. Before we close the meeting, Mr. Mayor, with your permission, I think I recently announced to my fellow Labour councillors, and I thought I probably will announce here, I have decided to stand down as a leader and retire as a councillor when my term will come in May 2022. This being a policy council and the time to reflect and look forward, it seems it's appropriate for me to share my news wider audience. It has been a great honor for me, Mr. Mayor, to be part of this council, serve as a servant of the people in this council, and I'm not going anywhere. I'm still fully committed to complete my term until 5th of May, and I will do my best to make sure that this levelling up funding or public county council funding or any other funding which is required for this council, I will fight to make sure we will get our equal share coming into this place. I think we accomplished a great deal. I think people probably don't remember, even those completion was leisure services, housing, even there were extra care housing. I think we should be proud of them. There are 5 extra care houses facility in Blackburn, Darwen, nowhere else in Lancashire. Even Lancashire County Council is looking how the Blackburn done. Such a wonderful 5 high-class extra care facilities. And latest one is Albion Mill. It's already open, it's functioning, and I think that is something we should be proud of it. And I think Theatre Quarter is the other one, Mr. Mayor. I think we should be proud of it. Number of people coming from outside, leaving the train, coming to town center area saying, that's wonderful. So I think there's a lot of things happened in the last 30 years in this council, and it doesn't happen because of me. It happened because of collective effort all the councillors. And I think Labour councillor, or Tory councillor, or Liberal councillor, it was collective effort from all of them to make sure we are going to improve the quality of life for the people. So, Mr. Mayor, I think it's a long way to go yet. There are 3 more council meetings. I have plenty of time to thank all the colleagues in this council chamber, some of them who are not here, some of them passed away. I work with 5 chief executives, probably 5 leaders, but I really enjoyed it. But I decided to make an announcement here in the council chamber that at least every friend is know, and even my ward colleagues will be able to probably select somebody to take my place, and the council will probably elect the new leader after the May election. And I thank every one of you supporting me for any number of years, and I really enjoyed it. But I'm saying this is not my last meeting. I have 6 months to go, 3 more meetings to go, so I will say a great deal more, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for giving me a chance to say a few words, and I'm here for another 6 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Riley?
Mr. Mayor, as Councillor Khan has just said, there will be other opportunities clearly for us all to respect and honour his contributions, but it doesn't feel right to leave this momentous statement just hanging in midair. So I mean, really, I think all I'm doing on behalf of my Labour colleagues is really just acknowledging that we respect the decision that Mohammed has made, and we understand it. We're disappointed about it. For some of us, we'd like to work with him forever. I think his wife would like to see more of him a little bit. So we understand the decisions, we know why it's been made, but we just believe that we're losing a terrific leader and an enormous friend. And as I said, Mr. Mayor, there'll be plenty more opportunities for us to heap praise on him before May the 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to echo what Councillor Riley said, as always, as we expect from Mohammed, very gracious way of doing that. We understand that obviously he's made that decision, and like you said, there will be plenty of council meetings and appropriate times to say farewell. But from our side, we respect that decision and we wish you the best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
On behalf of myself and the whole borough, I wish everybody a happy Christmas and hope